If you're in Los Angeles, you know this scene all too well. A wildfire is tearing through the hills, and then, finally, you start to see the smoke thin out. Everyone kind of breathes this collective sigh of relief. But today, we're going to talk about what happens after that.
Right? You see that blue sky again. The immediate danger, the thing you can see and smell, it seems like it's gone. It feels like you can finally take a deep breath.
And that is the million-dollar question we are diving into. Because once those flames are out, a whole new kind of danger creeps in. One that's totally invisible. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it.
Okay, so let's get into this. Most of us, we check the air quality index, the AQI on our phones. But here's the thing the source material points out. The AQI is really only built to measure the bigger stuff in the air. It completely misses some of the most dangerous pollutants that get left behind after these modern fires. So, this explainer? It's all about giving you the information you need to deal with these hidden threats. We're going to break down what's actually floating around in the air, and most importantly, what you can do to keep yourself and your family safe.
All right, let's get right to the heart of the problem. After a fire, especially one that's burned through neighborhoods and city areas, the biggest risks are the ones you can't see at all. Let's start with something called ultrafine particles, or UFPs. So that AQI number on the news, it mostly measures particles called PM 2.5. But UFPs, well, they are way, way smaller. They're so microscopic that they can just slip right past your body's natural defenses, get deep into your lungs, and this is the really scary part, they can even get into your bloodstream and cause inflammation all over your body.
And it's not just the UFPs. The air becomes this toxic cocktail. You've still got that particulate matter, the PM 2.5. You've got VOCs. Think of those as nasty chemical gases that come from burning things like plastics and paint. And then you have heavy metals like lead and arsenic, and if older buildings burned, you can even have asbestos fibers floating around.
So here's the crucial point to understand. This isn't your grandfather's forest fire. A modern fire that burns through a city is basically a chemical event. I mean, think about it. A wildfire burning trees is one thing, but a fire that burns our houses, our cars, our electronics, that releases a whole different, uniquely hazardous mix of toxins that's just way more dangerous.
Take lithium-ion batteries, for instance. They are in everything. Our phones, our laptops, our electric cars. When they burn, they let off these incredibly corrosive gases, like hydrogen fluoride. And here's what really shows you the scale of this problem. These toxic particles don't just hang around the burn zone. Nope, the wind can carry them for over 100 miles, impacting communities that are nowhere near the actual fire. Now, to really figure out how to handle this, we can actually look at what happened in Lahaina on Maui back in 2023. Those devastating fires serve as a real-world case study, and there are some critical lessons in there for a place like Los Angeles.
So in Lahaina, they faced this huge challenge of extreme air toxicity from all the modern stuff that burned. And what was the response? They had to get N95 masks out to the public fast. They were dealing with massive amounts of particulate matter, which meant telling residents to use HEPA filters inside to create safe places to breathe. And for all that contaminated debris, bringing in environmental experts wasn't some luxury, it was an absolute necessity. These are direct, actionable lessons for any city, LA included.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem. Now let's build on what we learned from Lahaina and put together a practical playbook for what you can actually do to stay safe.
First up, let's talk masks. This is so important. That simple cloth mask you have, it might feel like it's doing something, but it does next to nothing to stop these tiny particles. What you really need is a certified N95 mask. It's specifically designed with this electrostatic charge that actually grabs and traps those particles.
So your first line of defense is pretty simple. 1. Wear that N95 mask anytime you're outside and the air is bad. 2. Just try to limit your time outdoors, especially any kind of intense exercise. And 3. Use apps like AirNow or Purple Air. They can give you a much more detailed, real-time look at what the air quality is like right in your neighborhood.
Now, if you have to go back to an area that was damaged by fire, the rules get even stricter. 1. You need full protective gear. We're talking gloves, goggles, the whole deal. 2. The second you leave, wash your clothes and take a shower to get any particles off you. 3. Before you even think about rebuilding, hire a professional. And 4, this is absolutely critical, do not disturb the ash. Why? Because that ash is where all those heavy metals and toxic chemicals have settled.
Kicking it up is literally like releasing a concentrated puff of poison right back into the air you're breathing.
Okay, so that's how you stay safe outside. But what about the air inside your home? You know, the place where you spend most of your time and where you're supposed to be safe.
Let's turn your home into a clean air sanctuary. First, upgrade your HVAC filters to the high-efficiency kind. Second, think about getting some portable HEPA air purifiers for the rooms you use most. HEPA is just a fancy term that means the filter is good enough to trap those microscopic particles. And third, simple habits make a big difference. Keep your windows shut when the air outside is bad and take your shoes off at the door so you don't track all that nasty stuff inside.
We've been focusing a lot on the air, but all those toxic particles that are floating around, they have to land somewhere, right? They settle on our roofs, on our streets, on the soil. And the next time it rains, where does all that junk go? Straight into our water system.
Yeah, wildfires can seriously contaminate water supplies with ash, heavy metals, and all the chemicals from burned plastics and fire retardants. So you got to be proactive here. Keep an eye out for any boil water advisories from your local utility. You might even want to get your water tested by a certified lab. And if you do find something, install water filters that are certified to remove those specific chemicals.
Protecting ourselves in the moment is obviously crucial, but we also have to think about the long game, about recovery. Rebuilding isn't just about putting up new walls. It's about having to deal with a totally contaminated environment.
And here's a tricky one: fire retardants. You know, the red stuff they drop from planes. They are absolutely essential for fighting fires, but they're kind of a double-edged sword. They often have metals in them that soak into the soil and the water. And then, long after the fire is out, that soil dries up, the wind blows, construction starts, and bam, those chemicals can get kicked right back up into the air all over again.
And in a city like Los Angeles, you really have to think about how old our buildings are. Any structure that was built before 1957 is a special concern, just because of the materials they used back in the day.
When these older buildings burn, they can release a whole legacy of toxins. We're talking about highly toxic lead from old paint, cancer-causing asbestos from insulation, and PCBs. These are super toxic industrial chemicals from old electrical gear. This is exactly why getting professional testing and cleanup before rebuilding isn't just a good idea. It's absolutely non-negotiable.
So we end on this thought. That immediate crisis of a wildfire is, of course, terrifying. But the real, long-term challenge is learning to live with the invisible aftermath. It's going to require a whole new level of awareness from all of us. The question really is, are we ready? Are we ready to change our habits and our policies to protect our health from the dangers that are still there long after the smoke has finally cleared?